Have the Badgers legitimately turned a corner? We got the BS report, Locked On Badgers crossover. We're going to talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, a Locked On Portal crossover edition. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account. Use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Brian, we got a lot to talk about today. We got some listener questions, some recruiting thoughts, quarterback maybe in the offseason in the portal with some new money coming into Madison. We got to talk about this. Some good news. Brian smiling about the Badgers. I love it. And it's a real smile. It's not a fake one. But first, have the Badgers turned a corner? Is this real?
I think that they've mentally turned some kind of corner because they seem to believe in something because they play so hard. They were at least close with Indiana for a half. They beat a couple of teams. I thought they'd get housed by Washington. They beat them. Now, that's not fake. So they've done something right. I think that defensive front is the first thing they've got to be given credit. The big guy in the middle, the big nose guard, I always talk about him when I come on your show. I forget his name, but he's probably my favorite player at Wisconsin because he does all the dirty work and gets zero discussion. But he's the reason that Posa and just basically the back seven can move around freely. That's a good starting point. The O-line's improved some. Running back room has had its difficulty staying healthy a little bit here and there, but they got some good guys. I could still yell at you a receiver, but with the quarterback situation, I don't really know. Yeah, that's Carter. I know Carter is a good guy, but he didn't get any reps in fall camp, and now you're putting him out on the field. So it is what it is. But despite all the awkwardness of the quarterback position, and for the love of God, if you're a quarterback recruit, you got to wonder if that place is cursed.
Yeah.
It's just been unbelievable. Even with your third string freshman quarterback out there, you've gotten better. How many teams have you ever said that about? It's amazing.
I wanted to ask you this because you cover this sport. Obviously, you do the Florida State Locked On podcast, but you also cover it at a very national level. Have you seen a team that was maybe more dead in the water than the Badgers were turn it around and win a couple? They were almost inarguably the worst team in the Big Ten for a period of this season. And then they've come back and they beat two ranked teams. And they took Illinois apart. That game wasn't that close.
To not score a point 2 weeks in a row and then beat ranked teams makes no sense. I have no idea what that elixir is, but they need to bottle it and sell it. Okay, that's better than the fresh cheese you guys have up there in Wisconsin.
That's really good. Is there another team you can think of, off the top of your head, this type of in-season, just quick turnaround?
Not like this, because it's with the freshman quarterback that's third string. You have to put that in there because quarterback's the most important position in all of American sport. How in the world can you define that? I don't remember one, Ryan, and hats off to everybody at Wisconsin for figuring that out because they're playing hard. They're kind of playing like they have nothing to lose house money, which they should. They were terrible. Nobody believes in us but us, so let's go win these games. And they did. They had to win ugly, but even Carter, all 195 pounds of him, he looked like a toothpick out there. He's running hard. He got himself killed a few times. They believed in what they could do. That's half the battle, man. It's effort. Saban talks about that crap all the time. And for whatever it's worth, they're only going to get better because, I forget the other kid's name, but Posa and the other linebacker, 2 freshmen. Carter's a freshman. All the running backs are freshmen, sophomores.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver, I'm still going to yell at you about that. We got a long way to go at wide receiver. But with this money you're talking to me about that they have in the portal this offseason, I better see at least 2 high-quality receivers. Everybody know that I'm going to yell at Ryan if there's not at least 2 high-quality receivers added to the Badgers roster in the offseason. But, they're so much better than they were just 4 weeks ago. I honestly don't remember a team making this big a leap, especially belief in themselves. Mm-hmm. Tackles, just making the key block 3rd and 1. Everybody knows the play and they still get it. That's kind of Wisconsin football. I was like, okay, now they're actually decent. I was watching that Wisconsin versus Washington game, waiting for them to get blitzkrieged. And then they were the better team. So like they've earned it.
Well, let's hit on something you talked about. So Carter Smith, I mean, it hasn't been pretty. He's also a kid stuck into a role that he wasn't really prepared for. And we've talked a lot about Carter Smith coming into this offseason. And we talked about this before the show. Wisconsin has talked about, we are now going to spend some money. We are going to be, and this came directly from one of the biggest donors for the program. We are going to spend money to put the Badgers in the top third of the Big Ten. So specific, not just we're going to spend money. We're going to spend money to put them there. With that type of money, where does that get Wisconsin? I think to start with, in terms of getting a quarterback, because as much as you and I have both talked about the upside of Carter Smith, and I think the intangibles we both really like, they have to get a quarterback this offseason, in my opinion.
I guess it depends on your perspective. I don't necessarily agree. It depends on what you think Carter can do, but I'm not at practice. And they're just starting to use him with the number ones. They have no idea what he can do yet. And I'm just going to say the obvious. Outside of Vinny, do they have anybody that can make the combine at wide receiver?
In 3 years, Eugene Hilton Jr.?
Yeah, but he's a freshman. He's got like 8 catches.
Yeah, he does. It's a very valid point. Have you, there's this. It's hard though too, right? Because I think Tretch Kekahuna is probably a pretty good receiver. You can't throw him the ball because the quarterback situation has been so poor. But no, it's not a loaded receiver group for sure, and it's a very valid point.
So until they have those guys, how do we know what Carter can do or anybody can do? And on the other side, I can just tell you this from being in the 7-on-7 world, like receivers go where the quarterbacks are already at. So that is a very touchy thing. So if they're going to go that route, they need to do it with a big bang. I don't know who it'll be, but it would almost have to be like quarterback and receiver come from fill in the blank. FCS school that throws it around or whatever. And I have no idea what program it is, but somebody's going to send them a quarterback. Do they spend a ton of money on it? Or do you spend enough that you get a good player, kind of like the kid they got this past year from Maryland, and then go big game hunting at receiver? Because I would rather go that route, because by the end of next year, Carter might be ready to take over. That's how I look at it. So you guys got to get somebody on the outside that the other team has to know where he's lined up. And until that happens, the program's just dead in the water against elite teams. So the defense, though, like if they could just add one corner that's a takeaway player, that's a top third of the league defense all the way through, not just part of the season. Like here at the end, they are. Like I think it'd be kind of like Damon Williams is incredible, and they just made him look like he was a somewhat normal player, which is hard to do. So they're close. They just need like one corner, keep some of the guys they got in their front seven. Like I'm sure everybody's going to try to steal Posa out of the portal. Like that's already started. So keep your key players, add just a few on defense, and go big game hunting at receiver. Depends on what you're trying to do offensively. I don't know that either. I'd have to ask you, Ryan, what are they trying to do? Because it ain't what they're doing right now. I have no idea what their scheme is.
Yeah, they haven't really been able to play it this year. So Coach Grimes has what he calls a kind of a run violent offense. He wants to use motion, he wants to use misdirection, then deep play action passing, right? So create gaps through most misdirection on the running game, kind of some zone principles on the running side, and then hit him with deep play action, deep post, deep comeback, those kind of things. That's nominally what he wants to do, but he hasn't been able to do that this year because the offensive line hasn't been able to protect long enough, and the quarterbacks have all been banged up. And to your point, there's inherent talent flaws on the outside. Let me ask you this. So for me, it's more of this program for 3 years has been snake bitten at quarterback. I just think they will look at this offseason with new money and say, we might need 2 quarterbacks. I think they're going to maybe even overcorrect there just because of the injuries they've had. But let's say it's more of a depth piece. So you get a Billy Edwards and a Daniel Neal, and you say we're going to have a competition. Maybe Carter Smith can be that guy next year. In the scheme of things, what does a receiver cost? Like a big-time receiver? Is it quarterback money, defensive end money? It's certainly not quarterback money. What does a receiver cost to bring in the portal?
Just to put it in perspective, Cam Coleman's a little over $1 million a year. So Wisconsin's probably not in that ballpark, and Cam Coleman's aren't on the market. So 500 to 800 for one really good one. Because, there's only one Cam. Jeremiah's, you don't want to talk about that. Yeah. But not that he's available from the Buckeyes. But, yeah, it's going to cost you $1 million maybe if you're Wisconsin, they might have to overpay because they're going to be like, why would I go there when I can go over here? You might have to overpay right now, which probably ain't going to bring many people happy, but that's reality how this works too. There's a lot of leverage because I'm going to get double teamed every play. Why would I go there? And it's a valid point, but they might want to go the $500,000 route and take 2 guys and just spread it around and just screen teams to death, short passing game with speedy guys. I think that's the other way. The 6'3" boundary receiver is $1 million plus probably. There are just very, very few of those guys.
And speaking of 6'3" boundary receivers, we're going to talk recruiting next. The Badgers in a fierce battle for JaYden Petit with Oklahoma. Plus, I need to talk to Brian about a comment he made previously. You're going to love this, Brian. You're going to absolutely love this. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel is our incredible partner. NBA's back. NBA is phenomenal. FanDuel is the official sports book of the NBA. Live in-game betting plus same-game parlays allow you to put more action together and hit some big payouts. Whether maybe you're riding the hot hand, maybe you're watching a comeback, maybe your team is in a back-and-forth game, whatever it is, the live in-game betting helps you stay engaged and in the moment in all that NBA action. And I love betting the NBA because there's different slates every night, ton of great matchups. There's a lot of value you can find over on FanDuel with NBA. It keeps every game exciting with those live in-game bets, plus futures, parlays, teasers, spreads. All types of action is available over at our good friends on FanDuel.com. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's as good as you're going to find anywhere. $300 to use on bonus bets across the app if your first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up today over at FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's come back into this. Let's talk some recruiting. Brian, you have always come on and given tremendous insight with Amari Latimer. You've seen him play. On one of your previous shows, this is funny. I'm going to bring this up because we got some questions for you from the Discord. Treg says, ask him about scheduling his hair implants. He said he would have long hair before Latimer signed with Wisconsin. It does look like Amari Latimer is going to sign with Wisconsin. He was up at the game against Illinois. It does look like they've, according to all reports, mostly locked that one in. How big of a win, just given the context of this season? I know we've talked about his talent a lot, but this is a player that's recently been to an Ohio State game, to a Tennessee game. This is a massive win for Wisconsin if they are able to close the bow on this.
I wonder what the deal is with that because, if Ohio State or Tennessee want a running back, that's a pretty good sell because they both do a great job with him. But Ohio State's got 2 true freshmen in their top 2. Tennessee, I thought that might have worked because they need some help at running back. But if they beat out both of them, you're right. That is a magnificent job by the Wisconsin staff. And they got young running backs too. So good for them. I'm guessing that the coaching staff, like I talk about, relationships become before anything else. So they've done a good job, but I need to see him sign just to be sure because he's going to get a lot of people run at him in this last week. I mean, that's inevitable because he is a very, very talented player. He might be the most physically gifted guy on the roster from day one. I'm not saying he's going to play day one, but by the end of his freshman year, I think he could start, even though they got other good running backs. He has skills they don't have. Like his deep speed, his ability to read the hole and all that, that's an NFL player. So we'll see if he sticks it out. And if he does, it's good for it's about time Wisconsin had a guy you feared at running back again. They got good players now, but he's if he hits the crease, I'm not saying he's Jeremiah Love, but he's in that ilk, where if you don't take the right angle, he's scoring. He turns a 16-yard play into an 84-yard play real quick.
Physically, he also just looks like a guy day one. He plays some linebacker for them, physical, catches the ball. Just feels like he can do a little bit of everything that you'd want from a high-level D1 guy.
When I met him, he reminded me a little bit of an MMA fighter, the way his build is. That's really all you need to know.
Let me ask you this. Again, we got a couple other questions here. People are always excited when Brian comes on. Brett asks, what kind of effect does these last couple wins have on recruiting? Does it matter as much as fans think? Where does that fall?
When you're terrible, yes. They needed to get guys assured that they were Latimer. We're just talking about this. This question's perfect timing. Hell yes. You need to believe that, okay, this staff's going to be here. Why am I going up there for a year if I'm from Georgia and I'm Latimer if they're going to get fired? That's starting to turn around. You can believe. So that's A. And then B, there's some proof in concept in what they're running, especially if you're a defensive recruit. That defense is legit. Yeah, I know the offense has been terrible because of the quarterback situation. Okay, fair. But defensively, they're on the field all freaking day and they're still good. That has to count for something. So I think it's more important for Wisconsin than it would be for a team that's going to, like Michigan's gotten a little better here towards the end. It's Michigan. A moron can recruit a top 15 class to Michigan. It's not hard. So, and they got tons of NIL money. Like, it's not that big a deal. But Wisconsin, it's a little smaller error room there. Like, it's concerning. If they'd have finished out the season with 2 wins, they'd have lost some guys. So I think it's a big deal. And now that also helps you with your junior recruiting in January, getting guys on campus. We're building something. They have something to, like, hey, we won X number of games. I don't know if they'll beat Minnesota or not, but, they're going to be competitive again. That's so important because it's hard to sell. Oh, by the way, we're 2-10. We're good. How do you sell that? There's no way, dude. You have to win some games. So I think it's a big deal.
I want to give you credit on this too. You were ahead of the curve on this front seven, especially for somebody who doesn't follow the program quite as closely as other people. Several weeks ago, you said, and this comment actually raised a couple eyebrows on my Discord. You said this front seven could play in the SEC. This is an SEC level front seven, and they have been dominating. That Illinois, they had a 56% pressure rate against Illinois.
Yeah, like Illinois' O-line's not as good as I thought it was going to be, but it's still got some guys that are going to make it to the combine. And they kicked the crap out of them. And that's a team that's beat USC this year. That's a team that's competitive with other programs that Wisconsin's not always. They kind of raised their bar. So my next question for Wisconsin, like they played Minnesota last game, correct?
Correct.
They're a good team. They're nothing great, and they're about as one-dimensional as it gets. If Minnesota doesn't have a quote-unquote better than expected passing day, this could be a 24-3 Badger win. So I'm not saying they're going to because they're probably going to pass for 64 yards. But
yeah, it's true.
At the same time, if you get 2 sacks, a strip sack fumble, you scoop and score, like who cares? Well, I mean, you still want to throw it around a little bit, but like you got to find a way to get through while Carter's learning because there's only so much you can do in the middle of the season for season install. Like it's just not realistic. So that front seven's got some guys, and what little I've watched of them, the run gap fits are good. But sometimes, like if you watch from the horizontal angle, like you see on TV, the line of scrimmage moves back. That's just, it's not very difficult. When you're winning the line of scrimmage, it sucks as a quarterback. It's 3rd down and 8, and you got a guy in your face that's 6'6", 300 pounds. That sucks. Their front seven's pretty good. Are they as deep as like the Tennessee Vols or the LSU did? No, they're not. But like the starters can play for any of those teams. I think Wisconsin has done a lot with what they have. So that's the one thing Fickle's always been known for. Like their fronts are pretty good. They do some complicated things. But I think part of this is just like, especially that nose guard, like you have to double team him. Or your quarterback is at risk of having a 300-pound man land on him. That's just not good. So that's where they're at. And I think that's a team that probably is just going to play as hard as possible this last. They have nothing to lose. I'm kind of curious to see what they do against the Gophers.
Yeah, I am too. Really quick on recruiting. I want to hit on a couple players just for a minute or two and then finish off with any final thoughts you have, plus questions from the Discord. Karsten Bush, so high 3-star linebacker coming out of St. Xavier, Louisville, Kentucky. He was committed to Louisville, 6'3", 225 inside linebacker. Recently has been at Madison, recently got a crystal ball. It sounds like momentum is there for the Badgers to maybe get a late linebacker addition here. Thoughts on Karsten Bush as a late ad?
I was a little surprised when I saw his frame on the first clip. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a traditional middle linebacker. Probably couldn't cover me. He can run. Definitely a thumper. Like he's 1995 Badgers linebacker in that regard, but he can run. There's like that first clip. I don't know if you watched his senior highlights, the long clip. This idiot quarterback decided it was a good idea to take him on. Not a good idea. Very, very bad. He got annihilated, and he's a thumper. I'm like, what are you doing? It was hilarious, but that's how he hits everybody. He has the upper body strength that you're looking for. I mentioned earlier, MMA fighter for Amari. This kid looks the same kind of deal. Like he is a grown man, and he runs a little bit better than I thought. Is he going to be an unbelievable guy on 3rd and 8? Probably going to have a dime guy come in for him. But 1st and 2nd down, he could definitely play. And as a blitzer that's going to at least compete against offensive linemen, absolutely. This kid can play in the Big Ten. And for the record, St. X is a tremendous program in Louisville. So he'll come in a little more coached than a lot of kids out of the state of Kentucky.
And then a player that committed to the Badgers a while ago, but we've talked to other things since you've been on here. We haven't had a chance to actually hit on him. Gadd, 6'5", 260 out of Medina, Tennessee, high 3-star defensive end, originally committed to UCLA before he flipped after that coaching kind of turnover there. Thoughts on Gadd?
This kid is one of those guys that, like, he looks like a Greek god. He is just freaky, long, and athletic and all that. I don't know how good he is now. He's probably going to need a year or so, but you can't teach the measurables. My only other question is, how big does he want to get? How big does Wisconsin want to get him? So does he play strong side defensive end, or does he move inside, or is he a swing guy? Those things got to be defined by the University of Wisconsin. And if you're going to play a multiple front where you play some 3-man and 4-man, they're probably going to ask him to do a lot. So it'll be a lot on his playbook plate, but the physical tools with the length, the first step and all that are there. He's just raw. Needs to play at the lower pad level. But, like, to be honest, Wisconsin doesn't get many guys like this. This is the kind of piece of clay that you need to work out and mold correctly. He could be a 2 or 3 year starter. Just don't expect him to play year one, but like 6'5", 260 and athletic, like he had Florida State offer, etc. Florida State may suck. I know, I cover them, but they're not struggling to find defensive linemen. So if they offered him, that's a pretty good sign.
That's good stuff as always from Brian. We're going to take a quick second for friends of the show. Come back and talk about a Florida State-Wisconsin parallel that I'm really excited to hit Brian on, considering his background. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show. A quick second, as always, say thank you for making this your first listen on this crossover edition of Locked On Badgers, Locked On Portal. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at GameTime. College football is obviously here, but also NBA, NFL, college basketball. And if you want tickets to get in the stands, be with the people, be at the tailgate, and then go into that environment. And maybe you watch a Wisconsin-Illinois type game last week and you get a storm the field. You can have those experiences because of places like GameTime that get you the best tickets at the best prices, email to your phone, and what you see is what you're going to get from the price. There's no hidden fees, no adjustments. Like everything else online, it feels like so many places you go and you buy something and then the fee, what you're paying at the end, you're like, that's not what I saw. GameTime has got you covered. What you see is what you're going to pay for the tickets that you want to get to the entertainment avenues and atmospheres that you want to be at. Let's make some more memories. Let's do it over at GameTime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get $20 off that final price. Again, that final price that has no markups, no hidden fees, anything like that. Promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. GameTime, swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. And again, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Thank you for making the Locked On podcast, Locked On Network, your number one sports podcast network. I do want to give Brian a second here. Obviously, he does Locked On Portal, Locked On FSU, a ton of stuff going on over there. Where can people find everything you got going on your side, Brian?
Absolutely. Locked On the Portal, same places you get Locked On Badgers. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, wherever you download. And you can find me on X at FBScout_Florida.
Love it. Let me ask you this from Daltreed on the Discord. Are you happy Florida State is going the Fickle route and keeping their coach? What are the parallels here, if there are any?
I'll be really blunt. Like, if you ask that question to somebody that lives in Tallahassee, you might get punched. Like, the hatred for Norvell right now is insane. Florida State's level of expectation is off the charts, and he's run the program into the ground. They've got 4 out of 6 losing seasons if they lose the game against Florida this week. 4 out of 6 at Florida State. That's hard to do. For me, it's awful because it's a long offseason. After about another month of people complaining, they're not going to watch. I don't know what Wisconsin fans are going to do, but Florida State fans have better time doing other things. So it's not going to be good for me. I thought it was a terrible move, but they owe him over $50 million. And I also honestly think that they are scared to death of the market because this is not a good year for coaches and there's more teams in the market than ever. As for Wisconsin, I think it's similar. Like, I don't know what was the number for Fickle if they had bought him out. I don't even remember.
So it's about half of that. It's about 25.
That's a lot, but
still a lot for sure.
But it's still not like it's north of 50 for Norvell. It's crazy. But your expectations are different, and they tried to give this word salad about we're going to support him with NIL money, basically. Look, you could have the greatest coach ever, and the way this administration works, it's not going to. They won't figure it out. But everybody's angry at Florida State right now, and I mean angry. It is bad, very, very bad times.
Do you see a market correction with schools hiring coaches in the massive buyouts? You've seen some consternation. Obviously, Penn State paid theirs, but they weren't thrilled to do it. Wisconsin balked a little bit at it. Florida State, you mentioned. LSU's had their own stuff. You see schools maybe balking a little bit at these massive buyouts going forward?
I think they already have. That's what Florida State's doing. Like, I don't know if this is accurate, and if it is, I'm going to need psychiatry. But I was told it's a 2-year deal with Norvell. Like, they can't fire him for 2 years. If that's the case, I can't even imagine the next offseason. It'll be nothing but visceral. So, because their third game next year, they play at Bama. You know how that goes. So,
been there, done that.
It's not a good time. So, like, there's a lot of questions about how this works. And think about it. Baylor is bringing back Dave Aranda for the 129th year. You've got Wisconsin, you've got Florida State, and there are other schools that didn't fire their coach. People are like, what's going on here? It's because of the money. These agents have so much leverage. The schools can only do one thing and say, I'm not doing it. But it only takes one school to say yes, and it screws everybody else. And let's be honest, this is about the booster going to his office and bragging. LSU and Florida are screwing it for everybody else because they don't care. That's the problem. Florida State doesn't want to spend like that, and those are peer rivals. I think that's flat out why Florida State didn't go in the market, because they don't want to spend Kiffin money. That's 13 to 15 million a year. There's no way in hell they're spending that. Wisconsin would laugh at that. So, except for a very handful of schools that are going to compete, I think there's going to be a major separation of schools. There's going to be about 10 schools. It used to be about 20. It's going to be about 10. And then that's it. That have the elite coaches, and everybody else is going to be like, we'll take the up and comer, 5-year contract. We'll see what happens. That's what's going to come, because they're not going to put themselves in the financial situation that Florida State did and have to eat it.
Who would be the one surprise school in that top 10? Who's the school people don't think of? Like Texas Tech, maybe, or like
Texas Tech's money's dumb, so that's probably the right pick. BYU would be another one because they got that religious Philly, that dumb money, brother, dumb money.
I know.
So that's a possibility, but it's also in the other direction. Like UCLA should be in that list, and it's in the polar opposite. They're dead broke. That should be a gold mine job. You're on the north side of Los Angeles, and it's a terrible job. So I don't know. There's a few other schools that they're doing okay. Like Virginia Tech's like on that cusp. They said they're going to spend money, and that's one of the reasons Penn State's happy. $40 million of like the 48 or whatever they owed him is going to go via Tech. That's coming off the books for Penn State. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, it's the teams you think of, though. It's the big four in the Midwest: Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan. Florida State's not in it, but Florida, Miami, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. USC. That's Oregon, obviously. It's what you would think. Everybody else, there's very little. Texas Tech would be, by the way, good pick on that. Cody Campbell and a couple other boosters make Texas Tech viable for a championship.
Yeah, that's all it really takes. A couple quick final questions here. DD Butler, Wisconsin just announced they're re-signing with UA, Under Armour. Do players care about apparel? Does it matter anymore?
Jordan brand matters.
Okay.
That does, and that's a touchy subject. It depends on like who you talk to, but I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that matters. Jordan brand is preferred. Flat out. I'll leave it at that.
No, it's always good context, man. Let's see if I have any other questions here. Evan M does want to know how long you've disliked Wisconsin football. Have you ever been to Madison, Wisconsin?
I've never been. I don't dislike Wisconsin. I dislike their decision making with the administration. What Ryan told me today about them spending money, I might turn the corner, but I hate programs that run themselves. You have to spend. There is no shortcut in Wisconsin's facilities. If you don't believe me, ask Ryan. Where are Wisconsin's facilities in the Big Ten? Where would they rank?
They're not high.
They're bottom third, and that's being kind.
They are
There's
building
no excuse.
Facility. Finally, they are building a new practice facility, which is going to be so for the first time they're going to have a 100-yard facility where they can punt indoors. Brian, I don't know if you know this, they haven't been able to punt indoors because the punts hit the ceiling of their indoor practice facility.
I live in Alabama. There are high school programs in Alabama and Georgia that have better indoor facilities than Wisconsin by a million miles. High school, 100+ yard facilities. What are we doing up there in Madison, Ryan? Come on.
We're finally correcting it. We're spending some money. Is what we're doing.
Dude, this is towns with 30,000 people have better high school facilities than Wisconsin. There's your answer. That I can't stand that. That's ridiculous.
As well said. Any last thoughts from you on kind of Wisconsin from a national perspective, recruiting day or NSD coming up, the portal coming up, Wisconsin spending more money? Any question I should have asked you that I didn't?
No, I just think that Wisconsin spending money. It's everything. You have to spend to win, whether it's stock market, whether it's the car market, whether it's housing market, college football recruiting, retention for your portal. Because I'm telling you right now, at least one of the two inside linebackers for Wisconsin's at least thinking about leaving because of the check that's on the table if Wisconsin doesn't come to the table. That's how this game is played now. It is about poaching. It is about cheating. And that is not the way it should be, but it is the way it's rolling. Wisconsin has to make that concerted effort. And everybody blame Ryan. Don't blame me because he said that Wisconsin's going to spend. I want to see corners and I want to see retention. Those two linebackers, keeping Amari, etc. It'd be nice if Wisconsin could make a bowl game next year. For the love of mankind, let's go to a bowl game. Anybody disagree with that? I hope not.
They might go this year, right? You beat Minnesota, you have 5 wins. Maybe you backdoor one of those five-win bowl games.
That's true. That'd be nice because you get the practices.
That's it, right? Someone the other day told me, don't accept a 5. And like, dude, if you get 2 more weeks of practice for Carter Smith, you do it every
100%.
Yes. Dude, one, especially, by the way, there's a difference. Last year, the Badgers lost like their last 5 games in a row, right? They limped in. There's a difference between that and you beat Washington, you played Oregon tough, you beat Illinois, you finished with a Minnesota win. You got some juju going, man. Keep it going. Get another bowl, get a bowl win, get the practice. That's so enormous, man. Especially, we talk Carter Smith, but so many young players on this team. The running backs, Posa, Catalano, Eugene Hilton. There's a bunch of young dudes on this team. A bunch of young offensive linemen. You need that practice.
Yeah, it's about reps, brother. Football is a team sport. Reps matter. Yeah, if they get backdoor to the absolutely weed or whack bowl, whatever it is, I don't care what, let's go.
Take it.
Take anything you can get because, like, we thought they were going to finish with 2 or 3 wins. Getting to 5 would be awesome. So, hey, congrats to the Badgers.
I would love it, man. He is Brian Smith. Go check out everything he's doing, especially with NSD coming up, with the portal that's going to be coming up. He is the absolute man over at the Portal Podcast. All sorts of recruiting stuff, of which there will be some Badger stuff there too, I'm sure, especially if they're going to spend money. Brian's going to be on top of a lot of that.
I'm excited for the portal offseason with the Badgers. I'm not lying. I'm excited about that.
I am as well. Go check out his work there. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And thank you for making both of our shows your first listens every single day on Wisconsin. And we will definitely talk to you later.